In 1876, 2,500 Lakota and Cheyenne warriors crushed Custer's 7th Cavalry at Little Bighorn, a defiant stand for their sacred lands. But in Washington's shadowed halls, a secret council twisted this victory into a savage massacre to justify cultural genocide. A hidden memo reveals a chilling truth: Sitting Bull offered peace, and they burned his words. Why did they silence a treaty? What secrets fueled their campaign to erase a people? Uncover the dark conspiracy that turned a native triumph into a weapon of destruction. June 25, 1876, the Greasy Grass Valley burned with defiance. Over 2,500 Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors, led by Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, obliterated Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry, 268 men dead in under an hour, as Nathaniel Philbrick details in The Last Stand. This wasn't a massacre, it was a stand for survival, a roar against the 15,000 gold prospectors who'd swarmed the Black Hills, shattering the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, as D. Brown laments in Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. The native victory was a beacon of resistance, a rare triumph against a nation bent on conquest. But in the shadowed halls of Washington, it became something else, a weapon. By July, whispers of Custer's Last Stand filled newspapers. The New York Herald screamed "Savage Massacre," branding the Lakota as bloodthirsty, erasing their defense of sacred land, per Robert Utley's Cavalier in Buckskin. But a darker truth lurked. In a smoke-filled room at the War Department, a secret council, senators, generals, and Bureau of Indian Affairs officials, convened, their faces grim. A leaked memo, discovered in a 1920 archive and marked "Classified, 1876, revealed their plan: the Sioux victory must be spun as barbarism to justify total subjugation. This wasn't grief for Custer, it was strategy. The council saw Little Bighorn as a crisis, and an opportunity. The nation, celebrating its 1876 centennial, couldn't stomach a native win. The memo outlined steps: vilify the tribes, ban their rituals, and seize their lands. Sitting Bull, the Lakota visionary, had sent a peace envoy to Fort Laramie in May 1876, offering talks to honor the treaty, per a Cheyenne elder's 1903 account. The offer was burned, the envoy turned away. Why? The council wanted war, not peace, to crush a culture that dared defy them. A soldier's journal, found near Reno's Hill in 1880, hinted at the truth. Private Amos Kane wrote, "Custer ignored scouts, split us against thousands. Sitting Bull's men fought for home." The journal vanished from Army records, likely destroyed. By 1877, Congress slashed reservation budgets, forcing starvation, while missionaries prepared to outlaw sun dances. The council's propaganda painted Custer as a martyr, burying his reckless charge, as Utley notes. A tattered Lakota bead, found in a D.C. office drawer in 1890, bore the mark of a peace offering, ignored. This was no mere defeat, it was the spark for cultural genocide. The council's plan rolled out: laws to erase languages, schools to strip identities. But what was in that burned envoy's message? Why did Washington fear Sitting Bull's words? What secrets did that beat hide? In the summer of 1876, Washington's War Department was a cauldron of rage and fear. The Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho's crushing victory at Little Bighorn, 2,500 warriors felling 268 of Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry, sent shockwaves through a nation drunk on its centennial pride, as Nathaniel Philbrick recounts in The Last Stand. The Greasy Grass wasn't just a battlefield, it was a defiant stand for the Black Hills, promised to the tribes by the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, yet overrun by 15,000 gold prospectors, per D. Brown's Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. In a candlelit chamber, the secret council, senators, generals, and Indian Affairs officials, hatched a plan to ensure no native triumph would ever shine again. A tattered ledger, unearthed in a 1930 archive, marked "Confidential," War Department 1876, exposed their chilling agenda. The Sioux victory must be a catalyst for eradication, it read, outlining 3 steps: demonize the tribes as savages, outlaw their sacred rituals, and seize their lands to crush their spirit. General William Sherman, hardened by the Civil War, demanded total control of the Plains tribes, as Robert Utley notes in Cavalier in Buckskin. By 1877, Congress slashed reservation food rations, starving families into submission, while the Indian Bureau drafted laws to ban the sun dance and tribal languages. But a crack appeared in their armor. A young clerk, Elias Thorne, hired to transcribe the council's minutes, turned traitor. In 1877, he smuggled a partial transcript to a Chicago Tribune editor, revealing Sitting Bull's May 1876 peace offer, sent via a Cheyenne envoy to Fort Laramie, proposing talks to honor the treaty. The council ordered the envoy expelled, the offer destroyed, as Brown's sources confirm. Thorne's transcript, stained with ink and fear, vanished after his mysterious death in a Dakota alley, ruled an accident. Was it murder to silence him? The council's propaganda machine roared. Newspapers, fed by the War Department, branded Little Bighorn a barbaric slaughter, erasing Custer's reckless split of his 600 men, ignoring Crow Scouts' warnings of a 10,000-strong village, per Philbrick. Elizabeth Custer's speeches, painting her husband as a martyr, drowned out truths like Private Amos Kane's journal, found in 1880, which cursed Custer's glory-hungry charge. A Lakota pipe, carved with peace symbols, was found in a council member's office in 1878, locked away, never returned. The plan unfolded. Missionaries flooded reservations, forcing children into schools where their braids were cut, their tongues silenced. Starvation and disease ravaged the tribes, as Utley documents. Thorne's betrayal hinted at a deeper conspiracy. Why did he risk everything? What else was in that transcript? Who ordered his death? By 1877, the embers of Little Bighorn's victory had been snuffed out, not by defeat but by a calculated campaign to erase a people. The Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho, who in 1876 crushed Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry, 2,500 warriors against 600 soldiers, faced a new war, one of starvation, dispossession, and cultural annihilation, as D. Brown chronicles in Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. The secret council in Washington, exposed by a leaked 1876 memo, turned the Greasy Grass triumph into a pretext for genocide, per Nathaniel Philbrick's The Last Stand. Their tools: laws, schools, and lies. The Dawes Act of 1887 was the council's masterstroke. As Robert Utley details in Cavalier in Buckskin, it carved tribal lands into 160-acre allotments, stripping millions of acres from the Lakota and Cheyenne, including the sacred Black Hills, promised by the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty yet stolen by 15,000 gold prospectors. Surplus lands were sold to settlers, shrinking reservations to prisons of poverty. By 1890, the Lakota's Great Sioux Reservation was a patchwork, their buffalo gone, their people starving on rancid rations, as Brown notes. The council's goal wasn't just land, it was identity. Enter the boarding schools. Carlisle Indian Industrial School, opened in 1879, set the template: kill the Indian, save the man. Lakota and Cheyenne children, some as young as 6, were torn from families, their braids cut, their languages banned, as Philbrick describes. A 1901 diary from a Carlisle student, White Buffalo, found in a Pennsylvania archive, tells of a Lakota girl, Singing Bird, beaten for whispering in her tongue. She hid a letter from Sitting Bull, smuggled to her father in 1876, urging peace: "We fight only to live as we are, under the treaty." The letter, half-burned, was confiscated, its words deemed seditious. Sitting Bull's peace offer, first sent to Fort Laramie in May 1876 and rejected, as a Cheyenne elder recounted in 1903, was buried to fuel the council's narrative. The New York Herald's savage label stuck, drowning out truths like Private Amos Kane's 1880 journal, which blamed Custer's reckless charge for the 268 deaths, per Utley. Elizabeth Custer's memoirs, leonizing her husband, ensured his myth endured. By 1890, the sun dance was outlawed, ghost dancers massacred at Wounded Knee, as Brown documents. A Lakota wampum belt, etched with peace symbols, was found in a missionary's trunk in 1895, locked away like singing bird's letter. The council's plan worked, languages faded, ceremonies vanished. White Buffalo's diary ended with a plea, "They take our words, our land, our souls." Why was Sitting Bull's letter destroyed? What did Singing Bird hide? How deep did this erasure go? In 2025, the Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument stands as a testament to a truth long buried. The 2003 Indian Memorial, its stone circle honoring the 2,500 Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors who crushed Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry in 1876, rises defiantly beside the old Custer obelisk, as Nathaniel Philbrick notes in The Last Stand. This isn't just a monument, it's a reclamation of the Greasy Grass, where a people fought for their sacred Black Hills, promised by the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, yet stolen by 15,000 gold prospectors, as D. Brown mourns in Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. The secret council's plot, to twist a native victory into a pretext for cultural genocide, has been cracked open, but the fight continues. The council's shadow lingered for decades. Their 1876 plan, exposed by a leaked War Department memo, unleashed starvation, the Dawes Act of 1887, and boarding schools that stripped languages and rituals, per Robert Utley's Cavalier in Buckskin. Sitting Bull's peace offer, sent to Fort Laramie in May 1876 and burned, was silenced to fuel a narrative of savagery, as a Cheyenne elder's 1903 account revealed. Elizabeth Custer's memoirs, glorifying her husband's last stand, buried truths like Private Amos Kane's 1880 journal, blaming Custer's reckless charge for 268 deaths. But in 1983, a prairie fire at Little Bighorn uncovered arrowheads and a watch stopped at 3:22 p.m., validating native tactics, per Philbrick. The 1991 renaming from Custer Battlefield began rewriting history. In 2005, a Lakota elder, Dawn Red Cloud, found a rolled hide in her grandfather's trunk, etched with Sitting Bull's words, "We offered peace, they chose war." Hidden since 1877, it echoed the burned envoy's message, per Brown's sources. Today, Lakota activists, citing the 1868 treaty, battle in federal courts for the Black Hills' return, demanding justice for lands stolen by the Dawes Act's allotments. The 2003 memorial, designed with tribal input, bears names like Crazy Horse and Gall, not just Custer's. Rangers now teach the treaty's betrayal, and Cheyenne guides share wooden leg stories of warriors defending their home. Yet the council's legacy persists. Reservations remain underfunded, and native languages, once banned, are taught in secret. Dawn Red Cloud's hide, displayed at the monument in 2023, sparked protests. A soldier's spur, found in 2010 near Last Stand Hill, etched with "Forgive us," hints at a guilt the council suppressed. The Lakota's fight isn't over, it's a cry for truth. Why does the treaty still stand in court? What else lies hidden in those trunks? How will justice heal this wound?